President Bola Tinubu has again tasked security chiefs to bring lasting peace to Benue State. Presidential spokesman Bayo Onanuga said Tinubu renewed his order in the wake of the latest round of reprisal attacks that led to the deaths of many people. On Sunday, Governor Hyacinth Alia confirmed the killing of 59 persons in Yelewata, where suspected herdsmen from Nasarawa State attacked the border town. In his reaction, Tinubu charged the governor with convening reconciliation meetings and dialogue among the warring parties to end the incessant bloodshed and bring lasting peace and coexistence between the warring communities. Meanwhile, hundreds of youths took to the streets in protest, demanding urgent action to end what they describe as unchecked bloodshed.
I sympathize those who have lost their life. I will adjust my program and go see Benue people on Wednesday.
Former Chief Press Secretary to Benue State Governor Terver Akase and a security expert Darlington Umoru joins me now for a conversation on the situation in Benue State. Gentlemen, thank you very much for giving us your time. Darlington, let me start with you and just take your reaction to what's happening in the state and the various reactions from government at the state and federal level.
What is happening in Benue State at this point in time is getting out of hand, and I think everybody should be concerned. I'm not surprised if Mr. President is also going to be visiting there himself. You recall that some time ago, even the Chief of Army Staff told Nigerians that he had relocated to Benue State just to find a lasting solution to the conflict, that is going on in Benue State. It's gone beyond what any government will sit and watch. Both the statement and the federal government are expected at this point in time to be involved. It wasn't also surprising that the youth had to take things, to protest, against what is happening to them, because lots of them have been killed or have been killed. It's not a good one. It's been dragging for too long. The conflict ordinarily at this point in time is what everybody should condemn, and we should be looking at what solutions can be brought on board, to resolving whatever conflict. If it's about the headers, if it's about the internal conflict between communities, I think it has to be nipped in the bud at this point in time. If the Chief of Army Staff could go there and return and no solution, then there's a big problem.
Indeed, there is a concern. Terver, you're someone who has worked closely with the government. You understand the bureaucracy that goes with getting people some sort of relief. At the moment, we know that the Makurdi International Market has now been converted to an IDP camp for people who has been displaced by this conflict. Women and children are involved. What can you tell us about the arrangements for them before we talk about other technicalities, the people that are surviving, what is happening with them?
Well, there is traumatizing scenarios here. It's really a tough time for many people. And one time it's sympathetic with the place from their ancestor home. For quite some time now, this has been going on. And one impression, the one narrative that has been specified there, which is wrong, is that this is a criminal crime. But it is not. What is happening in Benue is resistance and an attempt to take over this land and occupy by those to look at Benue and the Benue Valley in general. such a good place for them to occupy, to take around occupy. So a lot of times, not just the international market that is during the about 8 camps and the number of things. I don't know how many camps there are now, but I believe that the camps have scaled up much more than we had in this many people, millions of people have in the state, and what we saw the other day, 260 they reported, and I don't think that is an exaggeration. Our people have been killed, and they will still come here to attack and kill our people, have never chosen their identity. Sometimes they come with cows which are accompanied by armed people, and at other times they do not come with the arms, but their trademark is the same. They come, they invade these communities. For instance, the last attack in Yelewata was carried out in the night. And then invaded people's homes, people, burnt many of them. And those who attempted to run were shot down. So it's something that is really troubling. But one thing that the world should know is that there is no communal staff in Benue State. Those who come here, the earthmen, do not have any boundary with Benue people. They do not live here. They come here to bring all the vegetation, the north areas.
So, Terver, I'm itching to ask, Terver, sorry to interject, I'm itching to ask you this question. I'll come back to you, Darlington, but you say there are no communal clashes in Benue State. That implies that there is an understanding of what the issues are. Can you confirm that? And can you speak to us about why it is being so difficult to either find a political solution or even a military one or dialogue?
You see, the fact Nigeria is the only country in the world where a law is enacted, not clearly enacted, and some groups decide later to obey that legislation. So I think it's happening only in this country. Benue State found a solution to this problem way back in 2017 when there was some administration enacted the open grazing prohibition and granted establishment law. And that legislation, as far as I'm concerned, still CBN and ANC. It was resistant to CBN force. Now, one wonders what has happened to that law. When that law was being enforced by the reform administration, and to a large extent, the armed soldiers, the headers with their ties, those who refuse to obey the law, because the law has a component of granting, and it says if you cannot blame equally with your animals, if you want to wear your animals, because of course, animal husbandry is part of agriculture, which is not on the exclusive list of legislation or administration in this country.
All right, Terver, I'll come back to you. Sorry, Darlington, do you agree with Terver that this has nothing to do with communal clashes? If yes, does that give impetus to what the Governor Alia said earlier in his presser? He said, what we have now, I'm trying to quote him, strangely, it is the fact that the headers had a crisis, the armed headers hijacked it, and now the bandits and terrorists have come in completely. He's alluding to an infiltration of a misunderstanding. What is, from a security perspective, what is your understanding of the issues? Do you align with Terver's submission, or you tend to lean more to what the governor is saying?
Well, if you want to define it, what is really an act of terrorism? Terrorism across the country, we know, have different phases of conflict, particularly across the north. For instance, in the northeast, you have the likes of ISWAP and Boko Haram operating. In the northwest, you have...
Okay, Darlington, again, my apologies. My producer just told me that we have our correspondent standing by. Please hold on to your thoughts. I'll come back to you to speak on that. But we have our correspondent who is currently on the ground monitoring what is going on, Joshua Imarayi. Joshua, thank you very much for stepping in tonight. Talk to us about what the atmosphere currently is in the states with all this, federal presence trooping in.
Well, I can confirm to you that the atmosphere in Yelewata now is that the palpable fear hanging over the cloud there has been successfully erased, but there is tension in the community. What do I mean by tension in the community? Most persons have lost their means of livelihood to this chaos. Most persons have lost properties to this chaos. Most persons have lost lives to this chaos. It is a disaster. It is one event that people cannot wrap their hands around and seem to be happy, because these same persons have suffered from this particular issue from the past. They even cited that this particular issue started way back as 2003. Most of these persons they've relocated from one community to the other and finally settling in that particular community where they found themselves now. And having to deal with this issue is another thing that seems to be up to their neck, and they can't take it anymore. They are crying for federal help, and they are hopeful that this particular security presence in that area would erase that. But however, they are questioning the fact that why is it that some persons have the discretion and the ability to carry weapons, and they only have to defend themselves with machetes and being subjected to the mercy of these assailants? It is another question that we need to answer as Nigerians, particularly in this moment.
All right. Any further information you'd like to share with us quickly before we come back to a guest in the studio?
Yes, particularly on the death toll. Most persons, they are counting their losses in 20s and in 10s. But the state government is pegging the death toll to 50-something. Now, I spoke to some of the residents who confirmed to me that they buried nothing less than 100 and something bodies, and there are still corpses hanging around in some dilapidated building that has been affected by the fire. You could see the skulls, you could see burnt bodies beyond recognition. The only thing you could see are bones that are now equated to ashes. So there is some sort of discrepancy between the figures the state government is putting out and the figures that the community members are affirming that they buried. So this discrepancy is something we need to balance and to be sure on who is missing and who is not missing.
Joshua, thank you very much for speaking with us, and do stay safe out there. Darlington, I'm coming back to you to finish your thoughts before I ask you your reaction to the comments from my colleague, particularly in regards to the tension and the fear and the question he put forward as to why attackers have guns. They just have machetes to defend themselves.
I was trying to explain that the different phases of conflicts that runs across the north. And then I talked about what the terrorists you have in the northeast, ISWAP, Boko Haram, Lokarawa, amongst others. Well, Lokarawa is in the northwest, Sokoto, Kebbi. And then in the north central, what we have largely is the header-farmer conflict. Over time, in the era of Jonathan, we also had reports of communal conflict, which have been stated now that is not a part of what is happening at the moment. If that is not what is happening at the moment, like you rightly asked, what has been the solution? Over time, if it has been identified that the problem basically lies within the headers and the farmer conflict. Now, if you have been trying to apply kinetic approach in order to end this crisis that has been running through Benue and Plateau, over time and you are not getting results, why not approach it from the point of the non-kinetic approach? First, have you taken counts of the headers who are resident in the forest of Benue? If you have taken head count, 2, have you been able to identify the owners of those cattle, that are breeding on the Benue axis? Have you been able to bring all of these persons together, both the headers and the farmers, now to say, okay, come, let's sit down and do Jojo, let's find the lasting solution? Now, is it about land? Is it that the headers want to occupy certain parts of Benue and they don't have access to that? Should that lead to killing? The likes of the former Senate President David Mark has spoken up. So many persons are speaking up. The youths are also speaking up. And then what exactly is the state and the federal government doing in collaboration to disarm some of these persons who are bearing small arms and light weapons? The basic problem for me is that the proliferation of small arms and light weapons has not helped the situation in Benue.
All right, talking about what, I'm really sorry, we're time pressed for this conversation, so I'll just go straight to Terver and just ask, talking about what the government is doing. There's been mixed reactions to the response time of the federal government. Again, you add that to the comments by the president that he's going to reschedule so he can be with the people of Benue on Wednesday. There's some who are even going as far as saying that a state of emergency should be declared in Benue. Talk to us about these reactions to the federal government response in 40 seconds, if you can.
Well, the truth is, Mr. President is now receiving the right decisions as far as the problems in Benue State and the security issues in Benue State are concerned. Because hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Okay, now, because if the president is receiving the right decision, yesterday, I said this party, if you say something like those parties, should be rich and fast. And it's really wonderful. Those parties, how? The movement do not have any boundaries here. Now the farmers will fight here. The headers come and intrude on their farm, and they do not want anyone to question how they take their farmlands and destroy crops and fair and destroy other properties. So one is that you can find the right difference, and that should come from the chief executive of the state, who is the governor of the state. That's why I think the problem lies, that the right decisions are not being given to Mr. President.
Terver, so much to talk about in so very little time, but I have to say thank you very much for the insights you have provided. Darlington as well, thank you so much for giving us the time tonight.